All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down one of the most powerful ideas in the entire world of contracts. Seriously, it's this one concept that can decide whether a whole agreement stands strong or just completely falls apart.
So, think about any contract you've ever seen. It's just a bunch of promises, right? But here's the big question. Are they all equally important? I mean, is promising to deliver a wedding cake on the big day the same as promising the frosting will be, say, eggshell white instead of cream? You might be surprised by the answer.
Nope, not even close. You see, in the eyes of the law, some promises are so fundamental, they're like the very foundation of the deal. And others? Well, they're more like details. And believe me, knowing the difference between the two is absolutely everything.
A really good way to picture this is to think of a contract like a building. You've got your foundation, right? The load-bearing walls that hold the whole thing up. But you've also got things like the paint color on the walls or the style of the doorknobs. They're part of the structure, for sure, but they aren't going to make it collapse. There's a definite hierarchy here.
So legally speaking, we usually break these terms down into three main categories. You've got conditions, those are the big ones. Then you have warranties, which are less critical. And there's also a third, kind of in-between category called innominate terms. But for today, we're going straight to the top of that pyramid. We're focusing on the most powerful type of all, conditions.
So, what is it that takes a regular old promise and turns it into a condition? Well, a condition isn't just part of the deal. It's the very reason the deal exists in the first place. It's not a detail, it's the actual heart of the agreement.
Okay, so here's the official breakdown. A condition is a term that's so vital, so incredibly fundamental, that if you break it, you've basically broken the entire contract. It just completely guts the whole purpose of the agreement.
And get this is the exact phrase that courts actually use. They say a condition must go to the root of the contract. And that's not just some poetic flourish. It's the real, honest-to-goodness legal test. Does this promise touch the fundamental reason the contract was made? If the answer is yes, then you're looking at a condition.
Now, to really see how this plays out in the real world, we've got to go back in time, way back. We're heading to London in 1876. There's an actress, Madame Poussard, and she's just been hired for the lead role in a brand new show. This is a huge deal for her, but things are about to go very, very wrong.
So here's the play-by-play. The contract gets signed, she's the star of the show. But then, disaster strikes. Right before opening night, she gets sick and has to miss the first few critical performances. The theater panics and hires a permanent replacement. So when Madame Poussard finally recovers and shows up ready to perform, she finds out she's been fired. Naturally, she sues them for breach of contract.
So, who do you think was in the wrong here? Was it the theater for replacing her? Or was it the actress who couldn't perform because she was sick? It really seems like a tricky one, doesn't it?
Well, the court had to make a call, and its decision became this landmark case that perfectly shows us the incredible power of a contractual condition.
The actress's argument was simple. The theater fired me, so they broke the contract. But the court saw it completely differently. In a shocking twist, it ruled that she was the one who had broken the contract. But wait, how could that be? The woman was genuinely sick.
And this is where it all clicks into place. The court decided that her promise to perform on opening night wasn't just some minor detail in the contract. No, it was the very core of the deal. It was a condition. And the court's logic here was just crystal clear. The whole point of the contract, its root, was for her to perform that lead role. By being absent, especially on opening night, she undermined the entire reason for the agreement. And because she had breached a condition, the theater didn't just have the right to sue for money, they had the right to treat the entire contract as finished and go hire someone else. Okay, that's a really interesting old story, but why does this difference between a condition and some lesser term actually matter for you and me today? Well, the answer is all about the consequences. This is where the real power is. Look, if a less important term, a warranty, is breached, let's say the wrong color costumes show up, the theater can sue for any financial loss, but they can't just cancel the whole show. But if a condition is breached, like the star of the show not showing up, the entire game changes. The innocent party gets a choice. They can walk away, tear up the contract, and sue for damages. It's basically the nuclear option in contract law.
Now you might be thinking, okay, but what if she had just missed a rehearsal instead of opening night? Would that still be a condition? That is a fantastic question, and believe it or not, a very similar case asked that exact thing, and the court came to a totally different conclusion.
But that's a story for another time.
All right, so let's boil this all down. What are the key things to remember? First, not all promises in a contract are the same. There's a hierarchy. Second, those super important promises are called conditions, and they go to the very root of the deal. And third, this is the big one. If you break a condition, the other side has the right to walk away from the whole thing. That's why being able to spot the conditions in any agreement is just so critical.
So the next time you look at a contract, don't just skim the words. Try to find its heart. Ask yourself, what are the absolute, non-negotiable promises here? What's the one thing that, if it didn't happen, would make the whole deal pointless? Finding that, well, that's how you truly understand what you're signing.